I think we can just start out. Just give us a quick kind of introduction to yourself and how you found Handshake and like an introduction to Hmail.
Yeah, so I found Handshake because I was looking for like a domain hack because my last name is Razor and I really wanted there to be like a .or domain so I could just have like ras.or as like my personal website. And I realized, or I didn't realize, but I like found out that that's not really going to happen. And I kind of looked around for anything else that would kind of fill that niche. And eventually I found, I forgot what it's called. I think it's OpenNick, where they like host, like somebody can voluntarily host a TLD or something. But I found that and I was thinking about like just doing that and hosting one of those for Razor. But that would be like, that's kind of out of the scope for that project since it's kind of meant for things that are going to be used by many people. So eventually, I stumbled upon the one Wikipedia page. I think it's alternative DNS stuff. So I opened up that Wikipedia page and I saw Handshake, and I had never heard of it before. So I go check it out. I check out handshake.org, and eventually I sign up on Namebase and I start all that. And yeah, eventually I decided I'm going to try to do an email. Like I'm just going to try to do a personal email server, and I did that. Exchanged. I know there's some. I don't really want to say it like nobody's actively debating it, but I know there's some disagreement about whether or not Neil and I shared the first email. So I'm going to say that Neil and I shared the first email between two independent parties. And I mean, after that, I just kind of decided I'm going to turn it into an actual service where people can sign up and use their own. And here we are.
Do you have any kind of roadmap items that you're working on for HTML or things that you are thinking of implementing in the future?
Kind of my biggest thing right now is I'd like the all of the front end. I'd like it all to be kind of better. I'm not a front end dev by any means. I mean, if you see the website, you'll understand. But at some point, I'd like to give all the front end stuff a lot more attention. Uh, One thing, I mean, I don't really have a roadmap. It's kind of just hearing out what people want and trying to implement that. The one thing that was on my, like, the only thing that was really considered a roadmap for the longest time was the automatic rewriting of headers depending on whether or not you were sending to an ICANN domain or not. And I got that figured out. So right now I'm just kind of chilling, seeing what people want and trying to knock it out.
What are some of those things that people have been requesting, or what's your most requested feature that you've seen?
Yeah, so for HMail, I mean, it was definitely the rewriting thing. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just the rewriting thing. I know one thing that I'd like to do in the future, one thing that I brought up and people have been kind of receptive about is eventually getting HMail on a fully decentralized stack with the way that I would conceptualized it would be the actual code running on a cache and then the user database and all the emails stored on SkyDB from Sia Skynet.
Yeah, that would kind of decentralize the whole service in a sense. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean that's the kind of thing where I mean I launched HMail and it was pretty much I mean if I wanted to launch like a normal ICANN email service instead of HMail, I mean not much would have changed in terms of development. But with if I wanted to do a fully decentralized stack like that, it would I mean I honestly doubt I would even be able to do that on my own. I'd have to bring in some kind of I'd have to bring in a few more people to help me out with that because it's just that's a lot to learn. I would have to I mean figure out how to containerize all of the software, which I'm sure a lot of it is already containerized to a degree, but also containerize it in a manner where it can use the modules required to connect to SkyDB. And I'd imagine it would also be writing those modules from scratch and figuring out how to store the emails in a database instead of files like they usually are.
So would you say that's kind of like the end goal for HTML is to just be this fully decentralized email type deal?
I wouldn't describe it as an end goal. It's kind of just like one of those things that I'm not really actively working towards it as a goal of this is where I want HTML to be in X amount of time. It's kind of just like this is the ideal scenario, and I'm going to look into the feasibility of getting this done because it's just such a big project to undertake. I mean, I'm not even sure if there's a fully decentralized like standard email. I'm pretty sure every email service in existence is centralized. So, I mean, it would be completely groundbreaking and honestly it's just such a difficult thing to even approach. So, it's not really something that's like on the roadmap. It's kind of like if I had wishes to be granted, it would be one of those things where, oh, this is something that I'd like to happen. This is something that I'd like to be able to do at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, because right now, are you running the email server for HTML?
Yeah. So there's actually two servers for HTML. There's the primary server, which is kind of like pretty much everything. It's the HTML.app website, and then it's also the email server. And then there's also the Roundcube server, which is the web interface, and that's it. So I run both of those, and I mean, honestly, right now, there's not much decentralized about HTML at all. It's just like any other email service.
Well, since it is such a big task to do, what are some ways that the community can kind of help you out?
I think the thing that would help the most is having. I mean, I'm a sysadmin professionally. I'm not. I mean, I've said this a lot, but I'm not a programmer by trade. I kind of whenever I need to program something, it's always spending a lot more time in documentation than actually writing any code just to figure things out, and a lot more time troubleshooting why the code isn't working than actually doing anything, which I'm sure that's what a lot of actual programmers go through as well. It's just uh, I don't have any formal experience with programming. So, I mean, it would be a matter of getting some of those modules. I mean, it would be a matter of figuring out how to containerize all of that stuff so that I mean it can run in Akash. And then I think the main difficulty right now would probably be the interface with SkyDB because that's the main concern I have going decentralized is I want the user data to still stay private, which would mean I need to have the actual user database that has the usernames, passwords, expiration dates, all of that. I'd have to have that in some kind of decentralized but still private database. And then I would also need to have the emails themselves in some kind of decentralized manner that's also private. So, I mean, it's just figuring out the solution to having decentralization, which is kind of inherently, I mean, it's both private and not private at the same time when you look at least my current understanding of it. So, I mean, it'd be that, and then also getting the actual like the actual bare bones coding to link up Dovecot and uh, OpenSMTPD to those decentralized databases.
Think you can shoot us some stats about HTML, like how many users sign up, how many actual emails are being sent through the service as well?
That would take a little bit of finicky commands, but I could probably figure that out. So I know for sure, I just checked, there are 212 registered accounts right now. And I mean, probably like five or six of those are just ones that I've created, but 212 actual accounts. Something that I should have done from the very beginning is add a field that says whether they've paid at all, just so I can keep track of that because I can't actually easily tell if somebody is a paying customer or not. But so far, I haven't. I've been operating at a loss on HML for, I mean, since it was created.
So you're saying that those the fees that users pay are just kind of paying for the server and the maintenance?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's not even. I've been actually paying out of pocket for that. Here, I can actually check right now. In the past, let me grab my phone because that's where I have the easiest access to those emails. I have it set up to email me every night with like my current wallet balances. HML accepts Bitcoin and Handshake coins, and over the past couple months, I've made about 45 US dollars. So it's not too much to write home about. I never really, when I first launched HML, it was kind of like, hey, what if I could make profit off of this? But it's always been about, I mean, a proof of concept email service for Handshake, just to show that it can be done and give access to those who would like to send emails on Handshake.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept to play out. One other thing that I was curious about was when you are sending an email, what is it using to encrypt?
So it's kind of right now everything is kind of up to the user. So I know that some clients kind of automatically do the PGP MIME automatically, but right now there's not much. I mean, it's obviously secure as a normal web server can get with, I mean, the DKIM, all of the verification stuff, which so that's as secure as it can get. And obviously using TLS to encrypt the traffic as well. But as for the actual content of the emails, it's kind of up to the user to encrypt that using PGP or PGP MIME, however you want to do that.
And then I may be mistaken here. I think in this channel as well, mentioned incorporating Dane to be able to encrypt your emails or something like that. Would that be possible?
Yeah, so I mean, Dane wouldn't really be email encryption. I mean, Dane would be used for the exact same reason it's used on websites in Handshake. It would be, and it's actually emails are one of the only places Dane is actually used, like in the wild today, outside of Handshake. So Dane can be used for server to server communication to make sure that that traffic is encrypted because I mean I've already said I'm a professional sysadmin, so something that's crazy to me is, I mean, every now and then I'll get a ticket that's like a high number of SMTP connections coming from this instance, and I'll go in and check it out, and a lot of the times, I mean, of course these are spammers, so you can't really, I mean, I can't really speak for like the entirety of personal email servers based on this, but I mean, a lot of the times I'll go to these spammers and I can read the subject lines. I can read the content of them just based on, like, I can look at that traffic. And I mean, it makes my job easier because I can send it to the whoever just to have these lines and say, hey, it is spam. Like, look at these subject lines. But yeah, a lot of, I mean, and that's just a matter of not using server to server encryption. And it's not really not using Dane, but Dane just makes that easier for SMTP.
What is your kind of next step with HMail? Like, what are you looking to add next to it?
Yeah, so next step is, I mean, the one thing that I've been kind of, like I said before, the one thing I was working on, well, not even working on, the one thing that I was kind of dreading working on for a long time was the rewriting filters thing, and I got that worked out. So really, the next thing I'd like to work on is just improving the website itself, getting some front end stuff, and also adding some kind of legal documents to protect me and not have some random person come and sue me, because I know that's something that I'll eventually have to do, is add like a terms of service and all that, and privacy policy, just to make sure that all those bases are covered. So, and I'm not really sure where to even start with that. I'll have to approach a lawyer for that. Oh, and let's see. So email is already decentralized, but I mean, as a whole, email is decentralized. But the thing is, email services aren't decentralized. So, I mean, you look at Proton Mail, for example. I mean, that's not a decentralized service. They're running on. I mean, they're running on servers in Switzerland or wherever they are. So, I mean, email is a very centralized, decentralized system. So, the question was, am I going to take on like the Google suite of software and calendar tools and such? I think that kind of extends past the scope of what the service I'd like to provide. Uh, I, I mean, personally, for all of those services like calendar, contacts, all that kind of stuff, I would use Proton Mail for that, just because I mean it is a centralized system, but I mean it's probably the most trustworthy and private option you can choose right now if you're going for that full suite of tools. So yeah, that's not really in the scope of what I like to provide. I know a lot of IMAP clients can actually just do those things regardless. Like it's kind of weird the way they do it. I like something weird. I when I was adding the email accounts to my iPhone, it asked me if I wanted to add them to Notes, and I'm like, I never set up anything for Notes on the server itself. Like, I never set up HMail to support uploading notes. But I mean, the way that iOS does it is it'll create like this empty mailbox, and that's where the notes go. So technically, I mean, so technically, HTML can support a lot of things like that. It's just not something that I'm like officially including as a part of HTML. And I don't think, like for context, it would be card dev, and for calendar, it'd be whatever else. And that's not really part of what I think HTML should be.
And then, is there anything else that's not HTML related that kind of catches your eye in the Handshake ecosystem that interests you?
One thing that I'd really like to see, and I think Paul is actually working on it, but I'd really like to see some easier self operated registry kind of systems. I know Kiva is also working on X and H and S, but it would be really nice to have something. I mean, I'm kind of asking for pretty much everything here, but like some kind of decentralized system where, I mean, you don't have to worry about a shitload of fees like with Namebase and all the registrars there. And you also don't have to worry about a ton of fees if you're to do like the badass domains kind of thing where you have to worry about Ethereum gas prices. So that would be my kind of primary interest right now in Handshake, is being able to launch your own registrar combo and get, I mean, of course there's always going to be a little bit of discrepancy between what the customer pays and what you actually get, but being able to get as much as possible from what the customer is actually paying. Because I mean, I should have not listed my names on the name based registry, because I mean, I listed them. My thought process listing them was I was gonna have 30% going to name base and then 30% for the registrar and call it good. So yeah, and I mean, I'd be losing 60% for sales on something that I own, which never sat right with me. But I mean, it's better than nothing. So, but I mean, even then, the registrars still have my names. They still have my names marked up like two times what I'd like them to be. So I mean, it's just like I really want there to be some option where I can do this stuff myself and not only get more from the sales of something that I own, but also just have more control over that whole process as well. Because it kind of sucks signing away your names like that. I'm like, well, I'm kind of screwed now for a year. And then if one random person decides they want to get a name on one of these uh, top level domains, a subdomain on them, I'm kind of screwed. I'm out of luck because I don't think Namebase is ever planning on letting you just opt out.
Yeah, I
So
think their thing is like it has to be the last name, the last subdomain has to expire, and then you can get your name back, and that's it.
yeah, so I'm kind of just hoping for a year to pass without any registrations on the names that I actually like, so I can. By then, I'm hoping that XNHNS is up in working condition, or the other registry stuff is up, and I can just do that because it's frustrating. I For the longest time I've been wanting to reach out to like organizations directly to say, hey, I mean I've got this thing, it's decentralized, you can't lose it, blah blah blah. Here's the whole spiel, but I really can't do that when it's marked up so much. I don't want to go up to them and say, hey, get this thing, and it's $500 per year for this thing. Like when in reality, I wanted to sell them for like 250. It doesn't sit right.
Yeah, I like the impervious forever domains type approach. Like here it is, it's available to everybody, never expires, don't worry about it, and you got a domain forever.
Yeah, something. So that actually is a project. I brought it up in the server somewhere, just like as an idea. But something that I think would be cool for kind of specific use top level domains is getting that registry software as a smart contract on whatever network, and then like every it's kind of a self-regulating system. So when somebody gets a I mean, whenever somebody gets a new SLD on the TLD, the next registrant has to get a majority approval from all of the other applicants. So it's kind of like uh, one of my one of my top level domains is .core, CORPS. So the reason I got that was because I actually used to take part in an activity called Drum Corps, and there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that all like that are pretty much the activity itself is these organizations, and it would be cool to have a system where I mean they can kind of between themselves say, hey, this is who they say they are, and they're actually applying for this domain, and you don't have to worry about name squatting or anything like that. So, I mean, that would be a lot of smart contract fuckery that I've had no experience with contracts at all. So that would be a lot of learning, but it's something that I'm open to exploring eventually.
Is there any kind of last thoughts that you want to add, or anything else that you kind of want to shill out that people could check out for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a Discord server with all of my projects on it. For those of you who aren't aware, I run a few different projects. I run Hmail, Handypedia, which is kind of the de facto wiki for the Handshake project itself, and Shaker, which is a Discord bot used in both this server and the Namebase server, which and my own server, which provide like identity validation where if you see a trailing slash on the end of somebody's name, you can be sure for a fact that that person is who they say they are, because it won't let anybody get that trailing slash without actually verifying that name. So those are the projects I run. And in regards to HMail itself, if you'd like to try it out, every new account comes with a 7-day free trial where you can just send and receive as much as you'd like. There's no limit on it. Every account comes with a gigabyte of email storage. So it should be, I mean, I still haven't used, I've been hosting my own personal email service for like years now, and I still haven't approached like 500 megs of storage. So 1 gigabyte. I'll think about adding expandability at some point, but I don't think for niche emails on Handshake, a gigabyte should be way more than enough. So week free trial. After that, it's $1 a month. You can pay however much or however little, and it'll automatically do the calculations. And yeah, it'll. I think it's good. You should definitely try it out.
Yeah, I actually totally forgot that you run the Shaker bot and Handypedia. Did you want to expand any more on either of those?
Oh, sure. So yeah, Handypedia and both. I feel really bad for running these projects in such a centralized manner, but yeah, both of them aren't. They are not decentralized. Handypedia is running the same software that Wikipedia runs, and I'm actually something that I'd like to do, and I mean something that I'd like to do as soon as possible. Actually, is get some localization for it. So the recent rebrand from Handy.wiki to Handypedia, I also kind of completely redid the backend, so it's much easier for me to do multi-language support now. So anyone who's bilingual and would like to contribute to getting the pages over in their language, let me know and I can create the subdomain and have it all there where you can start getting those articles translated.
And then with the Shaker bot, is that open source? Or actually, let me just stay on Handypedia. Handypedia, you just need to make an account, and then can anybody edit it, or is there some kind of vetting process that goes on?
Yeah, so Shaker is open source. You can see the source at git.sebastianrasor.com. And Handypedia, the way that it works is you'll have to sign in with a Handshake name. And once you're signed in with a Handshake name, you can edit and create new articles at will.
Thank you for stopping by, Sebastian, and telling us a little bit more about HTML and everything like that. Yeah, man, have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you as well.
All right, see ya.
See ya.